U.S. government advisory panel just endorsed widespread use of Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine.
And News 12's Beth Cefalu has been following the story all day for us. She is outside of Pfizer's Pearl River headquarters with the latest on the vote. Beth.
Good evening, and that's right. This panel, after an all-day hearing, voted to endorse Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine 17-4 with one abstention. Now, the question that was asked to this panel is based on scientific evidence. Do the benefits outweigh the risks for ages 16 and up? And it was that age, starting at 16, that some of these panelists had pause with. And the reason is some of the doctors on this panel said that there's just not enough data in 16 and 17-year-olds to really answer that question. So some panelists were recommending that the FDA start those vaccinations at 18 and over. Others were also recommending limiting this authorization to just at-risk populations, including nursing homes and hospital workers, to give the FDA even more time to thoroughly look at data and collect even more data. But remember that this vote is only a recommendation for the FDA. It will be up to the FDA to make that final approval. And if they do decide to grant that EUA, we know Operation Warp Speed is committed to getting vaccines shipped and start to be administered within 48 hours. Reporting in Pearl River, Beth Cefalu for News 12.
We begin with that major development from Pfizer. The Pearl River-based drug maker is asking the FDA today to allow emergency use of its COVID-19 vaccine. News 12's Beth Cefalu has been covering this story since it broke and joins us now with a look at what's next. Beth.
Good morning, Lisa, and what an exciting day for Pfizer and BioNTech. It was just a few days ago the two companies promised to submit their vaccine this week for FDA approval, and they kept that promise. That is what happened today. They also began initiating rolling submissions across the world. Now, as for what's next, the two companies say that once they get that FDA approval, they will be ready to start distributing those vaccines within hours. And Operation Warp Speed says we can see those vaccines to start being administered to people within 48 hours after that FDA approval comes down, something they expect will happen in December, so just a few weeks away. As for how many doses we can expect, those companies keeping to that commitment of 50 million doses shipped worldwide by the end of this year and 1.3 billion doses by the end of next year. Now, this major milestone coming at a time when we are seeing COVID numbers rising across the world, the country, and even right here in the Hudson Valley. Just yesterday, Governor Andrew Cuomo added several Hudson Valley communities to more restricted zones. So hopefully, Lisa, this marks a turning point in the pandemic.
Meanwhile, the racetrack at Empire City Casino closed tonight after a New Jersey man died from the coronavirus. Now, this is the first New Jersey death. And News 12's Beth Cefalu at the raceway. Beth, what exactly is this man's connection to the track?
Well, Scott, that New Jersey man who passed away was an employee at the Standardbred Owners Association based here in Yonkers. The casino confirming that the last time this man was at the racetrack was only 8 days ago. And today, New Jersey officials confirming that this same man, who is in his 60s, has passed away from the coronavirus. Now, the casino, on top of closing down the racetrack tonight, is asking any employees that worked in the same area as this same man to self-quarantine. Reporting outside of Empire City Casino, I'm Beth Cefalu for News 12.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Scott McGee.
And I'm Tama Ponton in for Macy Eglin. Thank you so much for joining us. We are awaiting an update from police on that apparent murder-suicide.
And we do have team coverage of this tragedy for you tonight. We will take you to that press conference live as soon as it starts. But first, let's send it over to Beth Cefalu with the update. Beth.
Good evening. Well, one of the things I want to point out is that all day today we have been in that neighborhood where their family was living and speaking to neighbors and parents. And the one thing so many of them are saying is that this family was loving and happy and that they are completely blindsided by this tragedy. And that's what makes it so hard for them to hear and what makes this press conference that's about to happen so important, with police hopefully putting together that timeline and what led to this tragedy. Now, the entire investigation started yesterday at about 2 o'clock. That's that's when police did their well check at the family's home. That well check sparked when the two kids, one who was in pre-K and the other second grade, did not show up to school. And when police arrived to that home, they found the family of 4 deceased. Now, sources do tell News 12 that the father was the one who killed the wife and kids with a knife and then took his own life. Still no word as to what may have sparked him to do that, but it's safe to say this entire community horrified and upset by the tragedy.
You just don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And these people seem to have been such a normal, loving, happy family. And when you see that, as the neighbors will attest to, it's just shocking.
Now stay tuned, because this press conference is going to start any minute, and we have so many unanswered questions that hopefully police will have the answers to tonight. Live in Pleasantville, Beth Cefalu for News 12.
And that is where we begin. Thank you for watching News 12. I'm Antoinette Biordi.
And I'm Scott McGee, and 24 people are homeless. Several businesses up in smoke following a 4-alarm fire in Dutchess County.
News 12's Beth Cefalu joins us from Market Street, where it all happened. Beth.
Good evening, and that's right, still a very active scene here in Wappingers Falls, and we are told it is going to continue to be this way for much of the night. But even once these fire crews start to wind everything down, that road to recovery just beginning for all the families who lost everything tonight. Livelihoods and homes turned to ashes after what began as a small fire spread quicker than crews could extinguish.
I was sitting there cutting somebody's hair, and my buddy who owns the pizza shop said, "Get out, your building's on fire." I come running out, and as you can see, the devastation. In total, 4 businesses were destroyed, including Mario Sandwich Company, which recently celebrated its 3-month anniversary.
I'm not worried about all the equipment and stuff inside. I'm more worried about, the family heirlooms and pictures, and the place was named after my grandfather, so I'm worried about all that stuff.
The fire chief tells News 12 the flame started on the outside of the 2nd floor. The fast-moving fire has left at least 25 people homeless.
Somebody called me and I came home. I can't get anything because everything's burned down, Nobody let me go in for get something like that. No.
Now, all the families who were displaced are being assisted by the Red Cross and by neighboring businesses, which are providing them with more meals as we speak. The cause of the fire is still under investigation at this point, but the good news is the fire chief on scene tells us that nobody in that building was hurt and only one firefighter sustained minor injuries. Reporting tonight in Wappingers Falls, Beth Cefalu for News 12.